Hi everyone, welcome again to Bake Your Way Kitchen. Today we are going to do a standard pie crust, and this is what you're going to need to, when you're just making, if you're making a pie and you want to make the crust from scratch rather than getting a store-bought one. This is the recipe you can use. It's the one that I always use. It's very easy to put together, and if you want, you can. I'm going to be using a food processor. I just find it easier, but you can do this by hand with a fork and knife, or with a pastry blender, which I'll just show you what a pastry blender looks like. This is a pastry blender, and basically what you would do is add in your flour and your cold butter together and mix it until you get coarse crumbs. I'm actually going to just do this in the food processor. I just find it easier, but you can do it by hand. The first thing you're going to need is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 1/4 cups of flour. And 1 1/4 cups of flour is about 162 grams. And you're going to need that. As well, you're going to need 8 tablespoons of fat. And by fat, it could be shortening. It could even be lard. But in my case, I'm going to be using butter. And it needs to be cold. So 8 tablespoons of cold butter, which is 112 grams. And so you're going to want to put that in with your mixture. There we go. And I like to coarsely, or I like to cut it into cubes, because what I find is it's easier for it to blend together versus if it's just one big clump of butter. So now what we're going to do is get this to be kind of coarse, and we'll just pulse it. You want to pulse this until you get what you want. Oops. We're almost there. So a little more. Alright, so this is what you're looking for. You see, it's not fully incorporated. It hasn't developed a dough consistency yet. You can see that the butter has blended in with the flour. And you can do this process, as I mentioned, with a pastry blender by hand or with a fork and knife. With 2 knives, I meant to say. But this is good enough for me. So now that we've gotten that, you're going to need to get a bowl. I'll use this one. We're going to pour this in. Whoops. And we are going to add about 4 or 5 tablespoons of cold water. You could also use a wine if you're doing a savory pie. Wine would work well. So you're going to want to just pour this in and kind of mix it. I would just mix it with your hands. I know it's kind of annoying to get your hands dirty, but sometimes you got to do it. Alright, and so believe it or not, that's it. We've gotten our pie crust right now. So, before we continue, before you can even bake it, you need to put it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes to firm up. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put this on my clean counter. Sorry, my hands have already kind of gotten into a little bit of a mess. Now, you can add a little bit more water if you find that it's not coming together. This looks to be just fine. And the reason I say anywhere between 4 to 5 tablespoons of water is because, you know, with all flour is different. And you know what? You're going to get a slightly different result with the flour you use, even if you use the same brand. Flour is very picky that way. So I'm going to put this in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes, and then you can bake it. I'm actually going to be storing this for a future recipe that I will do in the future, and you can stay tuned for that on Your Way Kitchen. However, if you're going to bake it right away, it needs to bake for about a half hour for 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and which would be 210 degrees Celsius. And you're going to want to, if you bake it, you're just going to want to flatten it and put it up the sides of a pie plate. And you're going to want to also puncture the bottom of your pie plate with the dough, because what happens if you don't, your pie crust might rise a little bit. Even though there's no leavening agents, it will naturally do that because it tends to puff up a bit. This is kind of a puffy type of pie crust, and it's good for savory and baking. And you can store it in the freezer. Like what I'm going to do, I'm going to be storing this in the freezer, and you will see me use this pie crust in the near future. So stay tuned. I'm going to plastic wrap this, put it in the fridge, and go from there. Thanks for watching. Alright, so I've now rolled this, put the pie dough into a ball shape and put it in some plastic wrap, so I'm going to just now put it in the fridge. Stay tuned for a future video because I will be using this for something. If you have a different use for your baking a pie dish, or if you have one already in mind, all you need to do is, if you need a pre-baked pie shell crust, is put it in the oven after it's been in the fridge for 30 minutes at 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to put that in until it has developed a nice golden brown color, which could take anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to see you in the next video.